Okay, I think this is quite important because I've done a lot of work on AMR, and I'm going to talk about what that is, but on awareness campaigns, and I've done a lot of research on understanding it. It's not just an issue for humans, but it's an issue in our farms, and regulation changes are coming. So, what is AMR first? Antimicrobial resistance, with a particular focus on antibiotic resistance. Now, bacteria have been around since before the dinosaurs. They're smart, Darwinian principles, they will survive, they're designed to adapt and survive. And what they've done, and what we discovered antibiotics in the 1940s and started using them first, penicillin being the first one, they were products that were able, it was actually, penicillin was a fungus, it was an actual product, it was able to kill bacteria. And so were born antibiotics. So antibiotics revolutionized human medicine, said to add 20 years to our lifespan. But what's happened over time is these smart bacteria are adapting through three simple mechanisms to the killing mechanisms of our antibiotics. So this is where we've developed resistant bacteria. Now, most bacteria are harmless, some of them are good bacteria, but we have harmful pathogens. So this is a real challenge, particularly for human medicine, but it's also going to affect, obviously, our farm animals. And a lot of what's been driven in the One Health idea that our animals, ourselves, and the environment that we share, that One Health concept, a lot of what's happening in human medicine. So it's said that resistant bacteria could be said to cause deaths of over 10 million people globally by 2050 if we don't really tackle this issue of AMR. So in human medicine, this is critical, and it will affect what we do in our animal systems as well. Also in our animal systems, we must remember that we need antibiotics, and it's not about removing antibiotics, it's just using them better. So AMR is something people are going to hear more of all the time. And I think with any challenge, we must provide solutions. So I'm looking at 5 steps to look at how you would tackle AMR in your farm. And they're quite simple, but they're from a lot of processes. I've been involved in programs, designing programs, but 5 steps to tackle AMR. So I think if we know what AMR is, the first thing we must understand when we're looking at any challenge, it's our mindset which drives a lot of our reactions. If we look at antibiotics traditionally on farm, sick animal, give them antibiotics. Sick animal, give them antibiotics. They provide a cure right there and then. A bit of magical tool and fantastic for farm animal health. But what we now need to look at is changing from what a reactive mindset, what you see and you treat, to maybe understanding more proactively what's happening. So a proactive mindset is about, so what can I do now to make sure my animals are healthier later on? So proactive is really the basis of herd health planning. But it's a real mindset shift. And a lot of the stuff I do with animal health, where I've got reasonably good knowledge on animal health on farms, I found the most impact I always had was when I understand the motivations of the person and where they were and where the system was. And sometimes I could change very little, but sometimes those small changes can make a dramatic difference on the management of the farm. So people are really important. It's down to mindset, and we really must look at our own mindset around disease. We must get more proactive towards disease management, antibiotic usage on our farms, and herd health. So mindset is probably the most difficult place to start, but it has to be the place to start. The next thing, I suppose, for any challenge, I always say education is key to understanding anything. And for farmers right now, I would encourage them to get involved and read about AMR, because it's going to affect your business. Maybe not right now, but it's going to affect decisions in the future. And again, that's part of why we start with a proactive mindset, looking ahead at what will affect your business and make better decisions instead of being here and now all the time. So education is key. And of course, when we want to affect change, good education will inform people to make better behaviour decisions. But ultimately, if education is not working, there's regulation. We all need that. If I digress for one moment, and that is in Ireland, in the smoking ban. We all know through education, knowledge, smoking is not good for us. But it really took regulation to make significant changes with smoking bans in pubs, bars and restaurants. Because of the education that came before, people were quite accepting of it. And I think if you understand and educate yourself on AMR, and you will understand better why regulations are coming, and the regulations are important. Get ahead of the curve by education. You also can adapt and look at your farming system and get better. And it's in that process of mindset education, getting ahead of regulation. Number 3 of the 5 steps is, I've been involved in a lot of programs and looking on farm where antibiotic usage was. And it's a very cut and dry science when we go onto a farm. The more data we have, the more measurements we have, the more decision making we can have. Now, everyone gets worried about data. Who's going to use my data? Who's going to take my data? Facebook and Google know what we've had for breakfast. I don't want to lose control of my data. Well, I can certainly say to farmers, when it comes to antibiotic usage and making an impact in your farm, there's an incredible amount of power to data. where the antibiotics have been used, on what animals, what drugs. This really plays into better decision making. We can also put diagnostics with that, and we will need to as we make better treatment decisions. But data is key. That data, in very simple terms, what you can do on a farm, even if you look at medicine records, you can see where and what antibiotics have been used, what areas, and that gives you an immediate focus, whether it's pneumonia in calves, lameness in sheep, mastitis in cows, and there's an area you can focus on, and then you can look at this area, the final area, to make better decisions. But data management and antibiotics is key. We have a bit to go on that, but there's a lot of progress been made in that area, and it's very, data's not very exciting for me. I don't love data or anything, but it's incredible when you start looking at data, how we can make much better decisions. So data's number 3. Number 4 is treatment success. So we still need antibiotics in our farms. They play a key role. We're going to get sick animals. We're trying to reduce down that sickness. And remember, sickness and antibiotics, the more we're using of antibiotics, the more sickness we have, the less the welfare issues, the more profitability issues, the performance of the herd, the harder it is for farmers themselves. So we still need antibiotics. So when I look at number 4 as treatment success, is when we're using antibiotics, that we use them correctly. And this involves a lot of work with your vet who's prescribing antibiotics to make good treatment decisions. What are best treatment options? Follow courses, use the right animal, the right drug, all these things. You'll hear this time and time again, but there's a massive amount of science to that. And we want to use them as much as necessary, but as little as possible. But we really want to drill into, I've been in a lot of countries looking at this, and I was with one vet in Denmark, and they had treatment plans, and they reviewed them. They were measuring, they created treatment plans for sick animals on some of their farms. They were also looking at how often they were giving those treatments, how well those treatments were working. And that's really key to keeping antibiotics working well on our farms and doing it right. Much better treatment successes. And if you step back from that, looking at when you treat and what you treat with. And sometimes it's the anti-inflammatories and the fluids that make a key difference. So that's really important, I feel. Finally, the most important element that we kind of jump to all the time, but I think these steps are really important, and that's what I've learned. And I'm a big fan of this idea of optimizing biology. From my travels in Nuffield, I've really come to this idea of optimizing biology on a range of topics, from environmental efficiency, animal welfare, profitability. Optimizing biology is about understanding fundamentally what farming system it is, what the wants and needs of the animals are in that system, and optimizing their biology within it. And that's down to a number of factors. Of course, it's feeding, it's the environment they're working, and herd health then becomes part of that through vaccination, dosing, managing all those types of diseases. Diagnostics plays a role in monitoring this, but if we can understand, for example, a dairy cow, what she needs and what she wants in a working environment, we can create a better life for her where she's more productive and healthier. Healthier animals require less antibiotics, and that to me is the final step. Now, I think, I've been often asked, where do we start with AMR? So this is my suggestion. You start with your mindset and look at where you're going and what your attitude is. Are you reactive or proactive? And you need to become proactive. Regulation in January 2022 is coming, changes. Get educated now, understand why this is an issue for your farm, and make decisions, proactive decisions about how you can get better. Data will be key. We need to mine into the data where antibiotic usage is. It's a simple way of assessing any farm to see where the usage of antibiotics is. Get better treatment success, get better at using antibiotics correctly, work with your vet. While we want to minimize usage, when we do use them, we want to use them correctly. And that's right down to disposal of antibiotics. And finally, and this is something you'll hear me more talking about, because I think this is really, with lots of our challenges, everyone's seen the documentaries about synthetic biology and ruminant animals being replaced by lab-grown proteins and so on and so forth. I think, optimizing biology in our farming systems is a progressive way forward to produce safe, healthy food, optimize welfare, performance, production, and most importantly, farmer profitability for the businesses and sustainability. So that's my 5-step approach to AMR.